Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to go over how to use the copy command to load data into Redshift. And it's just 4 easy steps. First, you upload data to the S3 bucket. Then you create a table in Redshift. And you just have to make sure that the columns that you create in the Redshift table match exactly the columns that are in your data in the S3 bucket. Another thing, you just want to make sure that the data type's closely aligned too, or you'll run into issues. And then we're just going to run the copy command, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. And then we're just going to verify the data. Just 3 prerequisites. You're going to need to have a Redshift cluster already created and an S3 bucket created, and as well a Redshift role that has access to the object within the S3 bucket. Okay. So I'm here in the AWS console. This is the query editor. Again, I already have the Redshift cluster created. So if you look in the left-hand side, there's the editor. You would just click on this editor and then get connected into your Redshift cluster. I will provide the queries that I have here for you to use, and also a sample of this data set, which is just a really small data set. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually go back into my S3 bucket. I just chose this random bucket, and what you're going to do is go to upload, and you're just going to add the file that you want to ingest into your Redshift cluster. So mine will be this plant inventory. And if we look at this plant inventory, so I just clicked on the file itself, and I'm going to go to select from. Then I'm going to choose CSV as the file format. It's comma separated. So do the show the file preview. So we have our 3 columns here: common name, plant ID, water frequency, and day. And just from looking at this, I'm seeing a string, which would be like varchar, and then I'm seeing 2 integers. Right. So I'm going to go back into the query editor. I'm creating this table. I'm just going to create the same name as the file, so plant inventory. As you can see, I'm creating this common name, which was the plant name, which was a string. And I'm going to have it as a varchar of 50 characters. I'm also just declaring everything not null, so the values cannot be null. And then for plant ID, I'm making integer, and then water frequency in days as well. I'm just going to make that as an integer. So I'll run this command. All right, that completed. So we should have this in the public schema. So if I go to public schema, I see the plant inventory table here. So now I'm actually going to run this copy command. And as you notice, first this is saying copy to this particular table in Redshift, public plant inventory. And then I'm going to copy it from the S3 bucket location. So you're just going to use the S3 : / and then the name of your bucket. If you have the file in a particular directory, you're going to want to specify down to the directory level, right? This by default will copy all the files within that directory. You can also specify the particular file by just putting a slash here and then the actual file name. For now, I'm just going to specify the bucket, and I have this file right within the bucket, so it'll capture this file. Then you're going to want to specify an IAM role. So this is going to be an IAM role associated with your Redshift cluster. And this IAM role needs to have access to the S3 bucket where you're copying from. So that is one of the prerequisites. I do have a lesson before on how to create this. And then you're going to want to have, for this particular file, there are headers. So I do have this ignore headers command. So ignore header as, and then the first row here. And then the file format is CSV. So I'm going to run this command. So the command ran. We're just going to check and see if it worked correctly. And we have 21 rows returned. Now, I also want to just show you if there was like an error. Let's say I took this out. I'm actually going to sub back in my actual account ID. So I ran that command. It's not really showing any error, but I believe there should be an error. So I'm going to run this command, select all from STL load errors, and I'm going to specify this particular query. And as you can see, we have a row returned invalid digit value P. And that's because it's looking for an integer, but it's seeing the header name, which was plant ID. And that's what's throwing an error. All right. So that's just a way to debug some of your errors. And that's about it. This is just one strategy for copying data into Redshift.